Hello, viewers. Welcome to the YouTube channel Lex Consilium Foundation. I am Major General Neelendra Kumar for the playlist Inse Miliye. And our resource person and our guest today is General Anil Ahuja. Anil, can I call you as that?
Certainly, sir.
Needs no introduction. He is one of the foremost military strategist and thinker today who is still active in army in India. Anil retired from the army after a long distinguished service, and the last slot that he occupied was deputy chief of the integrated defense staff. Prior to that, he had commanded a corps and a division in the Arunachal Pradesh along the Chinese border. He was also a former secretary of the Defense Acquisition Council, and presently he is doing wonderful service to the country as a distinguished fellow at the Vivekanand International Foundation. Anil, welcome to this channel, and I'm thankful to you for having agreed to speak on a topic that is engaging the global attention as on date. And yes, I'm talking about the war in Iran, which is on 138th day. And the newspaper headlines today, they indicate that both US and Iran have rejected the ceasefire plan. As far as President Donald Trump is concerned, he has spoken very strongly, and he has said that he can take out Iran in a day, maybe tomorrow, and that is what he said yesterday. Now, in this scenario, where many have speculated that this could be the start of World War III, the situation is, and I would like to ask you, Anil, that how do you compare the pre-28th February, that is when the war started, and by situation I mean the comprehensive national power having regard to economic and military spheres of US and Israel on one hand and Iran on the other.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me for your show. It's a privilege being alongside somebody held our hand and mentored us when we joined service. So thank you very much for getting me on your show. It's very topical to discuss about the ongoing war in Iran. And as you rightly said, that Trump has been threatening Iran. You mentioned about probably stepping into the Third World War. I'm not very sure whether already not Third World War, because we are all feeling the impact of it from our kitchens to our industry. So be that as it may, let me come to your first question. You've said about the comparison of the two belligerents in their comprehensive national power. So even without getting into the facts, figures, and basics, I think each one of us, even a top of a hat calculation, would say that there is a huge disparity. And it's surprising that Iran has withstood this in the sixth week. Iran has been under sanctions, as we all know, since 1979, intensified more since 2018 during Trump 1.0. We are all well aware of it. I will not go into the details. In comprehensive national power, if we look at two basic elements, the economy and the military. Economically, US is nearly a $31 trillion economy. Israel is another $500 billion economy, around $500 billion plus. So put together, we could say that they are around a $31 trillion economy on one side. Whereas you look at Iran, it's less than $500 billion. The figures that are available today state around $475 billion. Between the two belligerents, the economic differential is 1:60 times. Coming to the military, there are many institutions which every year bring out the military power of various countries. You have the most famous one being the SIPRI. We all know that every year they take out their the strength of the military power, imports, exports, etc. Now then you have IISS London. You have the RAND Corporation. But the most direct index, the ladder that comes out, perhaps, is from Global Firepower Index, who've been ranking various countries since about 2006 or so. Every year they bring out a list, and at present they are ranking about 145 countries, and they pick up 60 odd parameters: manpower, equipment, defense budget, logistics, infrastructure, geography, terrain, etc. etc. There are 60 parameters. Now they list out the Global Firepower Index. The highest is 000, which is ideal. Now, the highest overwhelming power is, of course, the United States of America. Thereafter, when you come down, Israel ranks around 15th in that list, which the recent one was issued in January this year, January 2026. Iran follows close behind and is ranked 16th. The parameters are very different. Militarily, as we see that US and Israel have a huge edge in ISR, air dominance, naval power, etc. If you look at the air power, US has about 2000 odd state of the art aircraft, including the fifth generation F-35s, F-22s, and 6,000 odd helicopters. Whereas Iran has about 200 odd older version of aircraft. You would recall before 79, they had American equipment. So they have F4s, F5s, F14s of early 70s vintage. And then, of course, subsequently, they have MiG-29, Su-24s. Just about 200 aircraft and just about 100 odd helicopters. So that is the huge differential in air power. You come to Navy. US has about 500 plus ships, including 11 nuclear powered aircraft carriers. Iran has none of this. They have about 100 ships and about 25 odd submarines, which are small submarines, some of them midget varieties. So again, Navy, there is this potential. Land, the differential is a little less. Let me not get into the exact figures because these are readily available on the net for anyone to see. But the fact remains there is a huge economic disparity and huge military disparity between the two belligerent opposing states. But despite that, Iran has been withstanding the way it is, as we are all seeing.
Thanks. You brought it out brilliantly. And the economic and military difference between the two sides has been highlighted by you. The advantage for the US and Israel gets compounded if one looks at the technological advancement that Israelis have made. And of course, we in India, if we look at the military history right from mythological Mahabharat days, there was a disparity between the two sides when we come to the Middle Ages, when the Babur came and he defeated the army of the opposite side, which was quite large. So you have rightly said that despite this disadvantage, if I can use the word, Iran has been able to withstand for these 38, 39 days. I would like you to please indicate as to what is the key combat strength of the Iran's armed forces, which allowed it to withstand such intense offensive actions by the two opposing forces for them?
To my mind, when I look at it, to me there are three factors which count, and I'll explain each one of these in a little detail. Number one is selection of the equipment that they decided to procure for their armed forces, acquiring the right kind of weapon systems. Because we all hear in our common parlance, China has so many aircraft, it has so many ships, and so many tanks, and India has only so many, and we try and match the numerical pattern. The fact is, with such huge economic differential, you can't match weapon to weapon, platform to platform. Iran used its ingenuity to get the weapons and to get an architecture that is suited to its own requirement of fighting stronger adversaries. First of all, they decided the underlying fact was they decided to develop asymmetric capability. Like I said, not wanting even attempting to match platform to platform, they wanted to develop asymmetric capabilities. Even this so called axis of resistance, building proxies like Houthis, Hezbollah, Iraqi and Syrian militias. Well, for them, this axis of resistance gives them the strength to have open multiple fronts against their adversaries. We've seen each one of these militias being used effectively in Gaza, subsequently here, and even with what's going on in Lebanon today, what Hezbollah is doing. Militarily, they focused on drones, missiles, and appropriate naval systems. So let me amplify this. In field of drones, they have gone in for a family of Shahed drones. We've all heard of these being used even by Russians in Ukraine. The most common one that we hear of is Shahed 136. Then there are smaller variants like Shahed 131, 129. They all cost in the range of about 20,000 to 50,000 odd dollars, used very effectively by the Russians. These are the ones at this cost to neutralize them, the Israelis and the other US allies in West Asia, they've been using Patriots and Iron Dome interceptors, etc., which cost $1 million plus. And some estimate that so far, Iran has used about 2,100 or so Shahed drones so far in these days. Give or take a few numbers, this is what is available in the open. Now, there are other variants like Arash 2, long range kamikaze drones, Mohajir series for intent surveillance, fiber optic controlled FPVs. One is building immense indigenous strength in drones. The second, you come to the missiles. The missiles, they have short range ballistic missiles, less than 1,000 kilometers range. Fateh family of missiles, a Khalij variety of anti-ship missiles, and they have certain Scud variants also. Then they have medium-range ballistic missiles, Shahed, Imad, Sajil, Khurram Shahar. Khurram Shahar is the one which, they modified, and you heard last month they fired 2 of these at Diego Garcia. Of course, they didn't hit, they didn't cause damage, but the messaging was there that they made it go 4,000 kilometers. When everyone expected the range to be around 2,000, they modified it, made the warhead lighter. They have these missiles, and then they have in the hypersonic category, Fateh 1, Fateh 2, 1,400, 1,500 kilometers range, Mach 13, Mach 15, MARV, or re-entry warheads. Now, they are also using certain cruise missiles. They are combining drones, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, rocket artillery. So this is what is giving them the effectiveness. So one was drones, the second is missiles. And third, for the maritime operations, like I said, they have a very small navy. They have those small boats, and they swarm these small boats. They are using these as fast attack boats, kamikaze explosive laden drones, drone boats, Zolfagar category, and they have these anti-ship cruise missiles, midget submarines, and underwater vehicles of the Asdar category. Now, and of course, we've been hearing of the naval mines being laid in the Strait of Hormuz. So this gives them the asymmetric capability, add to this the cyber warfare capability that they are developing. So this is how they have planned their arsenal in this manner that they get asymmetric advantage against much stronger adversaries. And this has been playing out as the second aspect that gives them the strength, as I see it, is the unique organizational structure. It's not so very well known, at least till the beginning of this war. Not very many of us read the Iran in details. Iran has 2 parallel and separate military structure. Is the regular armed forces. They are called Artesh, Army, Navy, Air Force, like we are all used to it. Now, they are primarily used for the conventional operations. Their strength is about 3.5 to 4 lakhs or so. They are not so ideologically driven. They are very professional and they are conventional warfare oriented. The second vertical that they have, which is very, very potent, is the IRGC. This Revolutionary Guard Corps, they called SEPA. Now, this structure was formed after 1979, post the revolution. Because, if I want to make your viewers understand, it will be like amalgamation of paramilitary forces, CAPFs, int agencies, all put together. Now, they have been built as parallel as a counter check to each other. Their strength is about lakh and a half to 2 lakh. They are ideologically inclined, tasked to guard the benefits of the revolution, and they focus on asymmetric and unconventional warfare. So all these Hezbollahs and Houthis and all, they are trained, mentored by IRGC. And even denying of the Hormuz Strait using these fast attack aircraft and carrying out raids, etc., is being done by IRGC. This is what they have created, something is being called the Mosquito Fleet. And along with them, they have their special forces, the Quds forces, which are special ops for external roles, and Basij, a paramilitary force. You would recall their chief was also decapitated. He was taken out by the strikes of the Israeli strikes, and they look after the internal security. So both Artesh and the SEPA, they report to the supreme leader. Their coordination is done by Armed Forces General Staff. So what I'm saying is that there are two parallels. This is a unique strength. And number three, the strength that they get, to my mind, is in the conduct of operations, the selection of. They have selected the targets in such an intelligent manner. They are winning in the battle of narrative. We are going only tit for tat policy. We will give you a proportional response and mirrored response. If the Iranian educational institutions, universities, and colleges have been hit, they hit similar academic institutions back. Two of them have been hit. They have also declared that all US and Israel affiliated universities, educational institutes are legitimate targets. Next is oil facilities. Again, quid pro quo, that you attack our refineries, gas field depots, export hubs. If Tehran refinery has been hit, if Sharan or Karaj depots have been hit, the response is to hit these back wherever there are American interests in West Asia. So similar pattern is followed for nuclear facilities, ports, infrastructure, airports, power plants, desalination plants. So what is happening is you choose the right weapons, which I'm weak, but I'll build advantage. You have a unique organizational structure for conventional, for unconventional. You select the right targets to hit, to send the right signaling to the world. That is where cumulative of this gives them an advantage.
You brought it out in a very elaborate manner, this matter relating to proportional and the mirrored response and the organization that they set up, acquisition that they did within the available resources. But point that comes to my mind is that very severe sanctions were imposed on Iran in 1979. And since then, Iran has acquired the position that it exhibits today, that it is able to stand up firmly in front of the combined onslaught of US and Israel. So, how were they able to build up such capabilities despite the sanctions?
Having been under sanctions for so long, that instinct for survival, they have developed a very elaborate sanctions evasion network. They operate a shadow oil fleet from which they get revenue. They have conscription where they get the manpower. So they get the money, they get the manpower. Then they have worked on importing dual use items like components for drones and missiles. And they have routed them through third countries, from China, from Russia, from some other countries. And that is where they got the ability to indigenize their drones, missiles, etc. Then they have created a very strong military industrial complex, which is run together by the Ministry of Defense and the IRGC, about which I had just mentioned. And the focus has been on genuine indigenization, on genuine Atmanirbharta, and 90% of their defense equipment is produced indigenously. Quite a bit of has been through reverse engineering. So they had their back against the wall, they used it, and that is how they have evaded these sanctions and still built their capability.
You have spoken about the weapons, and I would like to now come to the man behind the gun. I take you to 28th of February. That was the time when the US and Israel, they dealt a paralyzing, sort of stunning blow on Iran when they wiped out their supreme leader at that point of time, Ayatollah Khomeini, together with almost 40 of his key advisors, supporters, and aides. And that was a situation when to the world it appeared that it's a stunning blow by the US, supported by and US in conjunction with Israel. However, as the things were to unfurl later, it became apparent that their command and control structure did not collapse. Now, how did they manage this? Also, I would like you to include in this, is there any lesson for us in this?
You are right, sir, that at the launch of Epic Fury, and Israelis called it Lion's Roar, or some now call it Roaring Lion, whatever. On commencement of the operation, yes, their top leadership was taken out, and the figures state, the reports state that there were about 40 odd leaders taken out. I mean, their supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, CNC of the IRGC, Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, Secretary of Supreme National Council, Defense Minister, and many senior officials, political officials, military officials. And subsequently, as we know, mid March, they also took out Ali Larijani, who was the National Security Council head. He was also killed. The question is, you said that their command and control structure has not collapsed. And yesterday only, they've taken out the intelligence chief. Now, the thing is, one, they have worked assiduously to work up to three levels down to create a chain of one goes, the second is already in place. They visualize this. So one is building three steps down chain of command. And the second is something which is called the mosaic defense. Now they have 30 odd provinces, and the IRGC in each of the provinces, they had a semi-autonomous provincial council, semi-autonomous provincial command for each province, and one for Tehran. About 31 of these semi-autonomous commands they have, which are independent. Now they have a command and control structure, and they have their own integral assets, ISR assets, stock of weapons, munitions, integrated besiege for their internal security information, for rapid mobilization, and for local defense, etc. So now these provincial commanders have pre-delegated authorities, and they don't have to look back to the central leadership for their command and control orders. And as you would recall, within the first week, when the leadership was taken up, they said all these semi-autonomous provincial commanders are working on their own. With this delegated authority and chain of command, let's draw the same parallels for us. You said, what are the lessons? We have our commands. Even if you leave out the theater commands, we still have our regional commands in place. East, West, North, South, Central Command. We all have these commands. Within the commands, at least till two down, wherever we have served, we were always trained to take on the responsibilities two up. So we also have trained commanders. We have a chain of command, so that even if the leaders are taken out, there is backup leadership. And as we build our theater commands, this will strengthen further. They will have their integral resources. They'll have chain of command and control. These are the things we can do. There are lessons for us, but at the same time, there are things which we cannot do. Like they have their IRGC, they have their axis of resistance, they have their proxies. Now, India, we prepare our special forces for special operations, including covert operations. But India is not in the business of creating proxies, non state actors, etc. Well, perhaps we will not do that, but rest of it, we have a lesson that things will happen. Command and control will have to be delegated, and you have to have focus more on decentralizing of the control and absolutely decentralizing the execution.
Now, very quickly, I would request you, Anil, to respond. You've spoken about the command and control aspect in the previous two questions, but I would move to capability development. And I also have regard that you were the in the decision making of the Defense Acquisition Council while you were still in service. Now, the question that comes to our mind is that should India move away from conventional platforms to technology intensive warfare? What are your views in that regard?
So the question is every war has taught us different lessons. We fought Kargil as an attritional mountain warfare, went in for Parakram. It was non contact. We mobilized everything. We never contacted, we never crossed across. We fought Balakot in a particular way. We fought Sindoor in a particular way. There are many who would say that today, especially after Sindoor and after Iran, that today is an era of non contact kinetic warfare where you use drones, loiter munitions, precision munitions, etc., etc., and do away with tanks. I mean, I've been reading in Times of India, many of the people have been giving very wise comments. The question today is India has its own nature of problems. It has disputed borders with parliament resolutions to take our disputed territories back. We need to retain that at the same time. And we have to, let me add to that, with the capability to get back our territories, disputed territories. The second aspect is we have to have the capability to impose lasting deterrence on our adversaries, for which you need conventional forces. At the drop of a hat, you can't take the nation to a war. We did in Sindoor, we didn't mobilize. We took retributive, punitive action, and we finished it off in 88 hours. So you have to retain the capability to do that also. So you have to decide whether we'll have short and intense wars, we'll have limited, we'll have all-out wars, we'll have contact, non-contact, kinetic, non-kinetic. We'll rely more on autonomous systems or manned systems. So there is, and what percentage we'll give to cyberspace, cognitive domains. So what we have to do is we have to find the India specific balance. Yes, we have to move more towards technology, more towards building asymmetric strength. But it has to be a balance. It has to be an India specific balance. It's a professional decision, and we have to relate the budgets to it, and we have to relate the timeline. We have great visions. Just last month, we released the Defense Forces vision for 2047. Before that, we had the technology perspective and capability roadmap. We have to develop the capability to convert this vision into an actionable roadmap suited to Indian requirements with greater induction of technology. I leave it at that because this is a very deliberate subject of deliberations.
Fair enough. You brought it out quite correctly that this roadmap is to be realistic. It is to be made. Now, a very quick one. Some have raised a voice that India should do Hormuz to Malacca Strait. What would you respond?
I've also heard that. What I'll do is I'll recommend to those people doing that to keep both the maps in front of them and have a good look at it. You look at Hormuz, Iran mainland is the entire northern flank of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Whereas Andaman and Nicobar Islands per se are about 1200 odd kilometers from our mainland. And from there to Malacca is another about 150 kilometers. We can dominate it very effectively. Malacca per se lies in the sovereign territory of Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. And there are alternatives. There is Sunda Strait, there is Lombok Strait. So, like Hormuz didn't have alternatives, this has alternatives. So, I'll just give these pointers and recommend that they look at the map. We can dominate it effectively, but to block it like Hormuz, Maybe impractical in my perspective. I'm an army man. I'm not a naval man, but I mean that's my view.
Very well brought out, Anil. And it is apparent that my request to you to come and speak here, having regard to the penetrating view, very intense view that you have had in situation on Iran so far. Thanks for your articulation. We would definitely meet again when the time comes for that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure being with you.